Time for business now, and France 24's business editor Brian Quinn joins me in the studio. Brian, we're going back to our top story of this ceasefire now agreed between Israel and Hamas. The attention is now turning towards how to rebuild.
Indeed, Karis. As we talk about the Gazan economy, how to rebuild, you can't really talk about the Gazan economy because there just isn't much of one to speak of anymore. A World Bank report released last month said overall Palestinian GDP had plummeted in the first half of 2024 alone. In Gaza, that was by 86%. The West Bank economy, meanwhile, contracting by 23%. 4 out of 5 Gazans are now unemployed. Private sector infrastructure there has been devastated, 2/3 of it destroyed entirely, with most of the remainder badly damaged. When we talk about reconstruction, that's highly speculative because the destruction is so vast. Back in August, the Rand Corporation estimated an $80 billion minimum cost to rebuild. Just removing the 42 million tons of debris left by more than 85,000 tons of Israeli bombs dropped on Gaza will cost at least $700 million. In the first 3 months of the war alone, Israel had already destroyed more than $13 billion worth of housing. That destruction has only progressed ever since then. The UN says that if Israel's blockade on Gaza continues, it would take some 350 years just for the enclave's economy to get back to where it was in September of 2023. Here's the UN's senior coordinator for reconstruction in Gaza.
I think it's a very tall order. If you look at the extent of the damage, even just looking at rubble removal, we have the duty and the responsibility to ensure that we start to work towards early recovery, think about the reconstruction, and also the financing. I'm acutely aware, of course, that it's intrinsically tied to progress on the political front, the two-state solution, but we cannot ask civilians to wait.
Meanwhile, there's recently been a deal between Israel and the Palestinian Authority to unblock some of what's known as clearance revenues.
The Times of Israel is reporting that an agreement was reached on Sunday to release $500 million worth of those funds. Clearance revenues are taxes collected by Israel on behalf of the Palestinian Authority. The mechanism was put in place as part of an interim peace agreement in the 1990s known as the Paris Protocol. Those revenues account for about 65% of the Palestinian Authority's income. After the October 7th attacks, Israel refused to transfer the portion of those funds that were earmarked for Gaza, arguing that the money would end up in the hands of Hamas. Last February, though, Israel agreed to transfer the funds via Norway. That deal collapsed in May after the Norwegian government formally recognized the Palestinian state. The disruption has meant salaries for Palestinian public servants have been cut by 60 to 70% since October 2023. Sunday's deal will see $500 million in revenues released, as I said, but that money will actually be going not to the Palestinian people, but rather to cover debt owed by the Palestinian Authority to Israel's state-run utility for electricity and fuel. The Palestinian Prime Minister is calling on the international community to help support the territory's economies in the aftermath of the war. Here he is.
The challenges before us demand a coordinated global response. We therefore call on members of this global alliance and the broader international community to actively support the Palestinian government in implementing our national program for development and reform over the next 2 years.
So obviously a long and very difficult road ahead for the Palestinian people in the wake of this devastating war.
Indeed, Brian, thank you very much for that business update. Thank you too for watching.